I'm Andrea Isabel Lucas, founder of Bar and Soul and author of Own It All. The Own It All podcast is all about how to stop waiting for change and start creating it because your life belongs to you. Every week, I interview inspiring women and they share their tips about how to own it all in the various areas of your life, like career, time management, health, style, and relationships. Tune in every week so they can share their advice with you. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review in your favorite listening app. Hi, and welcome to the Own It All podcast. I'm Andrea Isabel Lucas. Today, we will be talking about owning your style, and our guest is Kimmie Smith. Kimmie, you have so many credentials. It's a little hard to know where to begin. I would say the most important one is that you are a woman with an incredible sense of style, but you are also a celebrity fashion stylist, co-founder, creative and style director for Athleisure Media, which includes Athleisure Mag and a multimedia podcast network, Athleisure Studio, and co-founder and designer of Romply, an on-air style expert. What did I miss?
Yes. I mean, outside of all of that, I would say, I'm a spokesperson for a number of brands across a few verticals of fashion, beauty, and tech. And at the end of the day, as much as people feel like I've bitten off so many different things, I always feel that it's in pretty much the same vein. It's about making people look their best. It's about taking the vision that they have for themselves and amplifying it. And it's a form of empowerment. So essentially, yes, that is everything that I do.
Wow. And it is interesting because I hear you said fashion, beauty, and tech.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to hear tech thrown in there. But you were telling me that also your background is in media?
Yes. So it's funny. Back when I was 14 years old, I used to build websites. So I'm a coder, HTML. So I don't do any of the C++ and Java. I don't know that. But I learned how to code starting at 14. And by the time I got to college, one of my majors was telecommunications with a focus in new media, which we call social media, and production, because I thought I would be the next Jane Pauley. And while being in college for fun, one of my really good friends who now he's done things with Capcom games, like he was the first person to actually graduate from Indiana University with a video gaming degree. And everybody was like, what are you going to use that for? And once again, this is like back in 1997 to 2001. And then he created some amazing games. And we would sit there learning how to increase my knowledge about building different websites. So I have always been kind of a tech girl at heart. I think the first time I used a computer, I was 6 years old, and I have been an ambassador for Microsoft as well as Intel and showcasing to people how I utilize technology through fashion in terms of organizing myself, setting up meetings and different things like that, and building up a lot of our concepts through HTML and other types of PHP properties. So I think in this age of STEM and women in STEM, you may not see me busting out mathematical things because that's not my thing, but I do actually think like a coder in many respects in terms of everything has to balance each other and what you do to one side has to happen to the other side as well. And it's just an element of my analytics in the midst of something that I do that's super, super creative.
Wow. And it sounds like a really effective way for you to also communicate and to be able to share what you do.
Exactly. And you know what? Because of what I do, and thankfully I have a great co-founder and we also have a great team, I'm a big believer that you need to be able to do pretty much every single thing that's in your system. And yes, you can outsource it down the road, but it's better that you know how to do it so that when things happen and you have to do it, you can. But also when people are telling you like, this is impossible, you can be like, wait, I know this is possible because you can do X, Y, and Z and X, Y, and Z. And at least you can speak the same language and understand what's going on. When you don't understand, that's when you can get into these crazy timelines, something that technically takes 8 days, 8 hours, whatever to do. And the person's billing you for like a month worth of work that only needs to be a lot less than that. So, I am a type A person. So I like to kind of know everything that's going on. And I think it's really good, especially from a technology perspective, because we all use it so much. Learn as much as you can because it just makes everything easy. And it actually creates a level playing field if you think about all the people who have gotten deals doing something on YouTube and that you don't have to wait for this massive industry to let you in. You can just do it yourself.
Wow. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think it's not that you have to wear all the hats or to be able to do all the things, but at least being able to understand it and educate yourself enough that, yeah. Okay. So you've kind of always had this techie side of you. Have you always had an amazing sense of style, or is that something that you've cultivated over time?
I started literally in the womb in style. My mom used to model for a number of years prior to me coming on the scene and definitely after. And although she worked in the automotive industry as an executive, she left that and ended up creating her own couture business in my hometown, Indianapolis. So she used to create beautiful clothing for our football players and basketball players and different things like that in our community. And I remember even at my youngest age, taking scraps of material that were insanely expensive and beautiful and dressing my Barbie dolls up in it. My mom made a lot of my clothes. So I, as a little kid, had corduroy and eyelet and all these different types of textures and things like that. So it's kind of a big introduction to it. I used to go with her to fashion trips in terms of buying a lot of the materials. And I have so many aunts that are product developers that essentially they create the clothing for American Eagle and Nike and different things like that. So that was kind of always in the general sense of where I was. And I was always a pretty decent dresser. I was very preppy at that point, and I'm not so preppy anymore, but I was then. And it wasn't until after I graduated from college realizing that I wasn't going to be able to work at the fields that I wanted to because of the dot-com bubble that burst, that I just fell into modeling. I was just like, all right, well, I need to make money. This is what I need to do. And it was my first modeling job that I had where I was a fit model. So a fit model basically is a person who they wear the different garments that you're going to end up wearing, and they make sure that the fit makes sense so they can make that en masse across people. And I was a lingerie and bikini fit model. And one of my first clients that I had for a number of years was like, hey, since you have a lot of downtime, I have all these girls that you can style. And I'm like, who are these girls? Well, they used to have a different girlfriend every other day. Literally every other day it was someone new. And they were like, you dress really well. Why don't you do this for these girls? And I'm like, sure, I'll do it for free, because I was making really great money just as a model. And they said, no. We're going to help you understand what your rates should be and your structure. So they probably had 8 to 10 different girls a week. And I was styling 8 to 10 different girls a week. And eventually you realize, oh, I can do this. I didn't think I was going to necessarily fall into styling, but it kind of dug me deeper into the fashion world.
I love that you didn't realize the value of your time and what you had to offer, and that they took the time to actually educate you and and let you know about that, because that could have gone really differently.
It could have gone really differently. And we're talking about a period of, I would say, 2001 to 2004. I was a girl from the Midwest, from Indiana. I used to spend every summer in New Jersey because that's where my mom is originally from. But I didn't really know how things worked. And when you look at the payment, I don't think a lot of people realize that depending on what you do as a model, you could be making different types of money. So when you're talking about lingerie and bikinis, the less garment there is, the more money you're making. So I could literally work a job for 2 or 3 days in a month and have enough for a month and a half's worth of whatever. So I didn't feel that I could tell them, oh yeah, pay me. I was just like, oh, I'll go ahead and do it. And they're like, no, this is what it is. And so every now and again, when I have new opportunities that come across, I do sit there and think about the fact that if you're exerting effort and an expertise, there has to be some type of monetization that makes sense with that, because they don't really know what it is, but they know enough to know that you need to do it. So that was a huge lesson that I kind of learned probably within 6 to 7 months.
And when you talk about doing styling, are you talking photo shoots? Do you also do events? Do you do personal styling where you're helping people with their closet or with their wardrobe?
Yes. So for me as a stylist, I do a lot of editorial. So yes, that's at the magazines. I also do campaigns as it pertains to music artists. So I've worked with Nile Rodgers, he's an amazing producer and entertainer and performer who's created the music for Madonna, David Bowie. He was with Daft Punk and Pharrell Williams for the Get Lucky song. And so you have things such as that. Then you also have campaigns as they pertain to selling products. So catalog side, or New York Fashion Week, which isn't really a campaign, but when you're creating the looks for Fashion Week, you're looking at the different types of items that need to hit the runway and then making the campaign again for what will actually sell. And then personal shopping is also one that I do. I'm pretty selective many times with the personal shopping because it is super time intensive. The way that I work, I'm known as a statement stylist. So people come to me knowing that there's some portion of their look that they really want to showcase. And from a television side, because I'm an accessory expert, when I go on air talking about how certain accessories can amplify your outfit, I am known for making people wear big rings or big jewelry, or maybe we should lean into gold or go into silver. So there's a lot of psychology behind what I do and understanding what my person is telling me that they want. But 9 times out of 10, I learned that if someone tells me that they want an X particular look, there's a difference between what someone thinks they want and what they actually want. So sometimes you have to take the clues that you're being given and actually hear what they're trying to say. And you're like, oh, that's what you're looking to do. It's not really this, it's this. And so there's just a lot of trial and error. So in terms of personal shopping, I tend to have long-term relationships with people like that because it's like you're building a whole other persona around this person. Because I really do believe that when you put clothing on, there's things that you want other people to understand about you that you don't have to exactly say.
So I am fascinated by what you're saying right now because, first of all, I can relate to it, but like not as a stylist, but on the other side, because first of all, yes, I totally agree that like your style is a way for you to say something at a glance. Mm-hmm. You're either, maybe you're saying you're a hippie or an artist, or you're saying that you're rock and roll, or you're saying that you're a business person, or you're saying like a really interesting combination of all of those things or whatever. Exactly. And that's fascinating. But what came to mind when you just said that sometimes what people say they want, like you have to have the insight to get to know them and understand what they really want or what they really want to say. It makes sense, right? Because if they could figure out how to say it themselves, they would already be doing it.
Right.
Right. So there's something that they haven't been able to articulate through their clothing that you're kind of like this detective trying to draw that out.
Yes. And it's something that you learn. I kind of have like my initial base points. So I do believe that we all have our own style and we're all individual. But the fact of the matter is, as humans, when we're talking about things, we have to be able to associate. So if you hear like an artist that's like random independent artist that no one has ever heard of, and you're like, oh, I love Group X. And you're like, oh, Group X, that's so cool. What do they sound like? Well, you're not going to be like, oh, their instrument style is a 4x4 percussion. You're going to be like, oh, they're kind of like a mix between Lady Gaga and somebody else. So it gives people a point of reference. So when I'm working with my people, I'm always like, who are the different people that you think has great style? Send me different pictures of these particular celebrities that you kind of identify with. And then I start looking at what I call the baseline. When a person tells me, I want to dress like a Lady Gaga type of person, like when she's on her red carpets, but the pictures that you're giving me are pictures of like Connie Britton when she's wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt in various pictures. I get what the person is saying. They want this Lady Gaga moment, but they want to keep it casual. But if you heard it just on its face, you'd be like, well, how is Lady Gaga and Connie Britton the same? There's nothing about them that ties them together. But what I know is that I have a girl that wants to wear great staples that are really easy, that are also multi-generational in wear, that she can wear in different places. But this girl needs to have like statement accessories. And so it makes me understand what they're saying, even though they're not articulating it in the right way. And it's kind of like a weird situation, but I get that more often than not.
You know what it reminds me of is collaging, because in collaging, sometimes there's not even any words, but you're using like an assemblage of different images to get a point across or to convey a meaning.
Mm-hmm. And it's something that, like, for me, when I take any project on, I literally am churning it in my head like a million times over. I like to make my mood boards. I like to see whatever's going on. And every time the person's talking to me and giving me different notes about different things, it's a Rubik's Cube. And unlike an editorial that has a stop and end date, when you're dressing people for red carpets and award seasons and different things like that, it's like a long race because you're creating an entire storyboard with disconnected events. But when a person is having a personal shopping moment, you could be dressing them for the office only. I could be dressing them for the office and vacation. Well, the girl that's going to the office doesn't want to look the same when she's going on vacation. So you have all these different personas that you're wrapping around, which is very similar to the way when you're dressing celebrities. So once again, you can only have so much in your bandwidth that you can allocate to different kinds of people. And so that's kind of always the challenge. And you get very connected to those people because you're connected to the stories that they're trying to tell.
I'm so fascinated, and I just want to hire you and have you come and like make my closet amazing and just hook me up.
Yep.
So I have a question for our listeners because, I own barn yoga studios. I'm more days than not, I'm either working from home and working out, dropping off, picking up the kids. Like I have looks that I think are amazing for glam occasions or for photo shoots or for the occasional business meeting. But, for most days, really what I need to be wearing is something that ideally I could work out in, because it gives me one less excuse to, skip my workout. If I'm already wearing something I can go and work out in. So I am super curious, any tips that you have for how to be stylish when working out or like with your workout wear? And because you're an accessories expert, I'm curious to know, like, what can we do with our accessories to take an outfit from going to work out to the rest of your day? Also, a side note, I heard a rumor that like athleisure as a category is like going to go away, or that it's not going to be a thing anymore. So I'm very worried about this. What can you tell us?
So let's start with the big myth that's being pushed around at the moment. Athletes are kind of having an end shelf life. When people ask me in a lot of interviews, like, oh, athleisure, kicked off like in the 90s, late 90s, whatever. And I'm like, no. Athleisure has been around since like the 1950s. When women started wearing like stirrup pants and different things like that, this was jersey gear that allowed maneuverability at a better pace for these women that were super busy, which then continued on into the 70s with a lot of retro wear, and then continued on for the resurgence of the stirrup pants to come back again. Athleisure is more than just the items that are, in stores. It's also about the technical nature of the fabrics themselves and the way that it's easy to move around, and the fact that you can put Spanx in certain things and have these vintage looks and everything else like that. The fact that the denim industry, which is a very large part of the industry, has included spandex-like elements in their denim to make them more maneuverable. These are all elements that athleisure is so ingrained into the system, it is not going anywhere. I can tell you there are a number of luxury lines that are out there that are literally making capsule collections where elements of the athleisure items are sitting in there because that's what their customer base wants. The fact that, I do believe, obviously, as the person who runs Athleisure Media, that we should be exercising for health purposes and all this other different type of stuff. But the fact that there are pants that have 8x8 stretch and all these different things that are out there where people can literally shave off a couple sizes and look amazing, those garments aren't going anywhere. So
I'm very relieved to hear that.
Yeah, the leggings, sport bras, all these different things are totally there. When I look at athleisure, I look at it as a 3-core system. There are the fitness gears that I call kind of like the massive core. There's also this kind of a hybrid section of the stuff that you wear from studio to street. And then you have, when you think about cashmere sweaters, that's athleisure. These are comfortable garments that you can place on your body that can be dressed up and down. So, like I said, it's definitely not going anywhere. In terms of, well, how can I wear athleisure items and, do the stuff that I need to do, from like running errands to being able to go out with my girls or have a date night? I love a good pair of, solid leggings. Now, I'm not going to lie. You make those hot pant leggings, which I'm obsessed with, and I wear them all the time.
Yay.
For those listeners that may not know, I love the fact that it's literally like a hot pant with a mesh that's in the major thigh part and then has this great ribbing at the bottom. What I love about that, and I've literally worn it when I was styling my client for the Grammys. I've worn it when I've gone to panels where I'm wearing like a super cute black blazer. I have a cute, basic tank top or a V-neck shirt. I have these leggings on, and then I put heels with it. Like, part of style is also how you make it come off. If you are a shrinking violet wearing something, it's not going to look right. But if you're like, nope, this is how I dress, and put on like a big necklace or a lariat necklace it's kind of more of like a fine jewelry style, fun, leather gloves that are fingerless, or different rings on your hand, ear stacks that have the one ear rhinestone that's on it, or cubic zirconia or diamonds. There's just ways that everything can just look like it's more elevated. I always believe that the sneakers that you wear in studio, change them out for like a sneaker that's meant to be more on the street, that has maybe interesting visual texture. So anytime I say the word visual texture, if you think about putting a satin garment, which is shiny, next to like velvet, you've created 2 items that are sitting next to each other that don't look the same at all, but it gives your eyes something to play with. So if you have a cute sneaker that has mesh on it, but then also has like other types of details on it that doesn't look like, oh, I just ran a marathon in it, it's going to look more elevated. And then if you change that up with like a ballerina flat, or, your favorite 2, 3, 4 inch heels, whatever you like to wear, that outfit can completely change, especially with us living in New York. I mean, there are times that, yes, I will run back and forth 2 or 3 times to change an outfit. But then there's other times where I'm like, you know what, I can't do this. I love wearing like one of my favorite graphic t-shirts that might be some, maybe it's Kiss or maybe it's Jimi Hendrix over a pair of like black leggings with a cool scarf that's wrapped multiple ways so it kind of looks edgy. Put a fedora on that and then just flip it out with shoes and different types of stacked jewelry. The way we live now, it's not like in the day I have a suit, then I go home, it's this, and then it's this. Like I might be doing 10 things in a day, as many women are doing. So that's the best part about athleisure, the fact that the fabrics just play so friggin' well together.
And that outfit that you just described, I was like visualizing it coming together in my head, like almost like a paper doll. And I was like, okay, we started with like the Kiss t-shirt, then we have the leggings, like that by itself. I mean, yes, you can work out in it. And I love to wear rock t-shirts too. And I will say sometimes like if you just stop there, it can almost look dumpy. Like you really do have to keep going and layering on the accessories until it feels like you're trying a little bit.
You know what I tell people sometimes, and it doesn't always work, but if you go on Us Weekly or any of these like celebs, they're just like us. Look at the outfits that many of them wear when they're like en route to taking their flight or coming off of their flight. Now, there are going to be some that are obviously like super, super glammed up, but think about David Beckham. David Beckham wears like a jogger pant, and then he puts like a cool white tee that's just, a V-neck, and he has a cool hat to the side and like a scarf. That's awesome. I know Chloe many a times is wearing a tracksuit that's just top bottom match, whatever, with a cool like a high rise type of a sneaker. Like these types of looks, that's what everybody's wearing. That's why with this whole trend of like, oh, well, maybe athleisure is going away. It's just not something that is going to be. But at the end of the day, the biggest part is if you own that look, because I know other people who will wear that exact same look that I'm wearing and it doesn't look right. And it's not because of the pieces. The pieces aren't the problem. The person isn't comfortable in their own skin, which then translates to an outfit not looking great, or it's about bad fit. I am like the biggest proponent of fit. You can purchase your items anywhere you want to purchase it. If you need to like get them taken up an inch, because I'm a big believer that I will wear a Forever 21 pair of pants with my Jimmy Choos and some other jacket. And it's like a $10,000 outfit, but the pant is literally $10. But the pant looks like it's more expensive because I made sure it got fitted. So that's like my big thing.
So how do you know when you love something enough to get it tailored?
Is it on your body, and do you love your body? I mean, let me tell you something. If you don't have the money to tailor it or to somehow modify it or get a friend or whatever the situation is, if you do purchase it, then it needs to sit in that part of your closet that's not ready to be presented. Fit, it's like I said, I have had some girls that have worn insanely expensive dresses, but because the fit was wrong, it looked like it was $2. And yet I'll have my other girls who don't have a big budget, and that dress is like $10, and yet it looks right because the fit is right. Whatever it is they did with that, they also made sure that they washed it in the correct way. Not everything could be thrown in the wash in the same way. Like there's just certain types of things you have. If you love your body, you will do what you need to do to make your body look a certain way. And fit is one of those things. Now, if you feel like I can't have a tailor, do whatever. Thankfully, there are a number of different products out there that are like, you can kind of do it at home. So technically, you could get fashion tape, which is basically tape that's meant to be on fibers that doesn't pull the fibers and ruin the garment. And you could literally hem your own pants with the tape. Now, I am not a big proponent of that. I think it works well when you're doing a photo shoot or different things like that, because if you're really wearing an outfit, that's not really going to stay, but at least a step in the right direction. So fit is just, to me, that is like a non-negotiable. It drives me crazy when I see things not fitting people correctly, because it actually cheapens the outfit regardless of the actual price point. It makes you look sloppy, and it doesn't make you look your best because something is off.
Yeah, and you're not going to feel confident if something doesn't fit right. So I feel like what I'm hearing is basically like don't buy something if it's not worth altering to you. Like, because what you wear, you deserve to wear stuff that fits amazing. And if it doesn't, and you're not going to go to the trouble of altering it, like just don't bother at all.
Yes, I am 100% on that. There's a few things that I believe in from a fashion perspective, and that is probably like the number one. And part of it probably does come from the fact that to this day, my mom will still make certain pieces for me. All women have challenges in buying things, whether it's real or imagined. Like I do have a number of friends who are like, oh, I can never find anything. It's like your body is literally the perfect body to wear these things. But I am a person who has a very small waist, and I have a decent top size, but my bottom, I'm standing at 5'6.5" with a 34 bust size, a 24-inch waist, but I have a 36 3/4 bottom. So when I try pants on, like once again, I love the whole athleisure trend, because when you tell me that it's jersey and bamboo and all these things, I don't really have to care. I could just get a medium and it's all going to hit where it's going to hit. But when I have a structured pant, when I have my structured pants made, it literally looks like a clown pant. But when it's on me, it's perfect to my body type. So when I'm going on the racks, a fitted pant is like the worst thing in the world if it doesn't have any form of stretch in it. And there have been many that I've had to just leave to the side because it's not going to work, or I personally don't want to put the investment in either, getting a tailor or just having my mom do it. It doesn't need to be sitting in my closet.
So say somebody wants to wear their workout clothes around throughout the day. So they're doing the athleisure thing and they want to accessorize. What are some of your favorite places to shop for accessories, and what are some of your favorite accessories to shop for?
So if we're thinking national chains, Macy's and Lord & Taylor, because that's available everywhere. And generally in most of the locations, they have the same types of designers that are sitting in there, and they give you a variety of price points. It also gives you a variety of a lot of designers who may have very similar styles, but maybe one speaks to you more than the other one. I also love BCBG in terms of accessories, just because you're getting this really edgy look, but not at the price point of like a Gucci or something else of that nature. In terms of the actual brands, I have a heart for a lot of LA designers, from Sydney Evans to Pavre. I love, for me, a lot of my jewelry pieces that are a little smaller in nature are that boho vibe, the stackable rings that are kind of thin, so you can wear 10 of them together and it kind of looks like a whole finger stack on one finger. I love the whole 3 rings that can be all worn into one. So basically all 3 of your fingers are fused in. Love stuff like that. I love a good charm necklace. I love the evil eye and the hamsa and all those different types of things. I love stacked necklaces that are thin, that are all worn together. I love mandala necklaces. That's one of my favorite things to wear, and I actually wear them a lot. I also love like watches. I'm a big believer. I love seeing men's watches on women. It's kind of such a nice contrast. I'm very big into, basically it's called playing with proportion. You have something really small in one area, but really big in another area. So you have this really big like men's watch with a 40 millimeter face, but then you stack it with like fun beaded necklaces that can be bracelets or bracelets. And I think that's really cute. I always tell people you should be going on Rue La La and Gelt and finding all of these. Once again, they might be high designers, but because they're on those particular platforms, you can actually get it at a much cheaper cost and have something that's really fun and interesting to put into your collection. I'm also a big believer in whether you're doing gold or silver. I love mixed metals. A lot of people feel like you cannot mix metals together, and I'm like, nope, that's crap. You could totally mix metals together. Once again, it makes it your own. And then finding what your favorite colors are and finding ways through beaded bracelets and other things like that to infuse these colors, because I believe that people do actually have a statement color or a series of colors that they gravitate towards. I think that's really important.
I think it's important to know that too, because sometimes I'll buy something that I think is really cool, but it doesn't actually fit with my wardrobe. And then I wonder why I'm not wearing it. And it just doesn't work with the other pieces that I have or with my accessories. So I do think, or like I've bought like this bright red scarf that I really liked over the summer, but I found I haven't been wearing it. And I just think it doesn't fit with the other things that I wear.
And that's the thing. So like if I was working with you and you told me this, and I'd say, okay, like when I work on projects and when I work with people, I'm always like, sky's the limit. All colors are great, whatever. In my personal wardrobe, I pretty much wear neutrals all the time. And I'll have certain gifts that are given to me by different brands. And I'm like, that hot fuchsia, like it's really pretty. And I would totally put it on one of my clients or one of my projects, but I personally don't wear that. And I'm like, wait, what would you tell your client? I would say, okay, what about wearing an awesome white or cream outfit? I am also a big believer that this whole don't wear white after Labor Day, that is nonsense. White is even more beautiful in the wintertime than in the summer. But I have been known to wear like an amazing white dress with awesome white shoes and putting on this pashmina fuchsia scarf on it. I think a lot of times with accessories, it's a lot easier to take fashion risks because you can take it off or it literally is an accessory too. And I tend to find that when you force yourself to wear certain things that you normally wouldn't wear in terms of colors, you'll end up finding other ways that it starts integrating back into your clothing where you're like, all right, I'm not going to wear this like all the time, but in these particular situations, like a vacation or whatever, I can now put it into that. So it's kind of funny how you trick your body into almost adopting something that at its core you would normally not do.
Now, do you believe in editing down your wardrobe so that like you don't have too many options and it's like a little more plug and play, or do you think a lot of options is a good thing?
Well, at heart, I'm a maximalist. So there's some people that are minimalists, and then there's people such as myself that I'm just like, throw it on more, throw it on more. The only thing I do believe in editing, for example, is if every day, so I think that when you go to work or whatever it is that you're doing, if 3 days in a row, you're literally looking in your closet, which is like spilling over with who knows what's living in there, and you're like, oh, I have nothing to wear, or I would never wear these, then it's time to edit. Because if literally you cannot imagine a situation where that is being worn, then that's just taking up not only space in your closet, but it's making you really apprehensive and it's really stopping the process of being able to get in and get out the door. And I think in situations like that, like even as a stylist, I'm constantly editing my closet. Now, I've had things in my closet for 10, 15 years that I can still wear, not a problem. But if I keep going past this one particular, I used to have this blazer and I loved it, but I never really wore it. And then eventually I just gave it away because there is a period of time that if something isn't being worn, then it needs to be edited out.
Yeah, and it almost makes you feel guilty, especially if you like it, but there's some reason you're not wearing it. Either sometimes I find like, something like that in my closet where it's like, oh my God, yeah, I love that dress. But then it's like, or that skirt, but I haven't worn it. Okay, why haven't I? Is it really because I haven't had occasion, or is it because I don't have like the other pieces that I would need to build that into an outfit? Or, is it because it's actually scratchy and it's not comfortable, so I avoid it or whatever? Because then you end up starting to feel guilty that you're not using it.
There have been times that when I've worked with someone, or even just you're talking casually, and someone like, for instance, you're like, there's this skirt and it's just scratchy. And I'll literally say, well, is there a lining in the skirt? No, there's not a lining. Okay, well, are you willing to tailor it to get the lining in the skirt so that you can wear it? Or maybe like it was a dress that you bought like on a crazy sale and somehow like you had an aha moment that was in the mirror, but then when you got home, whatever, well, can you cut the dress down? One of my favorite stylists she's on QVC. So her name is Lori Goldstein and she's phenomenal and she's done a bunch of different stuff, so many different celebrities and whatever. But on QVC, she has a line called like Logo Chic or whatever, but it's her line. And I remember when she launched it and I happened to be at a lunch with her. And I said, oh my God, I love this dress. I'm like, well, but it's a little too voluminous for me. I don't know, blah, blah. And she was like, Kimmie, let's just cut it. She literally cut this dress. Now, this is a dress that was going to be on QVC. Like, why would you cut something like that? Because when I, photograph it, it's not exactly the same thing. And she was like, no, once I make it, what you do with it is whatever. If you need to cut a sleeve or do this or do that and drastically change it, it doesn't matter because now that it's yours, it has to fit your body. And that was probably back in like, wow, that must have been 2007. And it just really struck me, So even when you're going to the store sometimes and you're like, oh, I really love that. But boy, I'd rather cut the arms off and make it more like a muscle tee than cut the arms off and make it a muscle tee because you're going to wear it more. It's going to speak more to your style. And, when you buy something, that's merely a suggestion. Once you take it home, now it really becomes a part of you.
I love that. That sounds like totally an aha moment when you realize like, oh yeah, I can do whatever I want with this now that it's mine. Hey, it's Andrea here. I just wanted to take a moment to remind you to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite listening app. Or if you're not sure how to do that, just go to AndreaIsabelLucas.com/podcast. And your 5-star reviews are always appreciated. When you take the time to rate and review, it helps this podcast to reach more people. Also, don't forget my book, Own It All, is coming out this March, so stay tuned. I can't wait to share it with you. I have a question, and being an accessories expert, do you have any advice for investing in handbags? Because I know they can be really expensive, and I always want that look, and I always want that like spoiled feeling of treating myself to a really sweet handbag, be it an evening bag or even more so like your day-to-day bag that you're going to be using all the time, I'm always so nervous that I'm going to buy something that might actually be trendy and not made to last, like something that's not going to stay relevant for long enough, or that it's going to go out of style.
So there's trendy, and then there's your signature statement, right? I don't believe in trends. Like, people will sit there and tell you, oh, white is so of the moment right now, or, the bell bottoms are having a moment. Once again, technically bell bottoms started in the 1920s and 1930s with sailors. Like, that's what they wore. And then it had a revitalization a little bit in the 50s in certain areas, and then in the 70s it came strong. So there's an article out there right now, they're like, oh my God, girls, bell bottoms are back. They have always been around. They didn't go anywhere. We all have a friend who loves wearing vintage or certain items that are trapped in time that we personally wouldn't wear. But when you know your friend and you see your friend, that's what you expect to see. And it totally makes sense and it works. So I don't like to think about trends. Trends are actually a marketing initiative that is done in such a way so that the brands that are participating in that can ensure that they're getting certain types of funds and dollars for their customers. But when you talk about a statement, that could be anything. And honestly, even as your signature statement, maybe that changes. Maybe in the winter you have one statement and in the summer you have another. When you talk about handbags, I literally have handbags that are probably anywhere between $2,200 and $3,500 that I love. I wear them all the time. There's something that they age well. Like, I love it. And I'm never concerned about, well, what does that mean in the scope of everything else? What I do say about it is a lot of times I'll have people come to me and they're like, I just couldn't imagine spending that much money. But yet these people have cars and they have other different types of things. I think everything is affordable for anyone should you choose to go about getting it in whatever way you can. So some people can purchase it all at one time. Maybe somebody else has to save money over like 70 weeks to get it. But the fact of the matter is that feeling of being able to have it. And when you use certain items, I always tell people, well, yeah, maybe that is $3,500, but if that's literally the bag you wear every single day, divide that out to how much it is actually every day that you're wearing it. When you have an expensive bag, the only thing that I tell people, and that's whatever, like for some person, 300 could be expensive or whatever that is, make sure you're doing the care that you need to do with that bag. If it's leather, are you using the ointments that you might have to use to make sure that leather looks right? Once again, if you use that bag a lot and it doesn't have little feet on it, go find a place that will put little feet on it so that it can stand the test of time. There's nothing worse than seeing an awesome looking bag that the corners at the bottom look like they've been really beaten up, because that really shows that you're not taking care of the bag. And so once again, it makes it feel more cheap than what it actually is. But yeah, I think that everyone should have a statement bag to whatever level they feel it needs to be, so that you do have that feeling of luxury, especially when that's a staple that you wear all the time, or maybe you just wear it when you go out at certain points of the time. We do so much work for others and ourselves and different things like that. You need to have something that every time you look at it, you remember the feeling of what it was like to get it. Like, I'll never forget, I go to a lot of editor events. So basically those are events that other editors and stylists and different people come together to see a launch of something, whether it be the brand or a certain product. So back in 2008, Jimmy Choo had an event, only like 10 of us, and we went to the Jimmy Choo store, and we're all listening about all the different stuff that's happening with this particular shoe. And they were like, you know what? We love that you guys know about this and that you're excited about it. Why don't you go through the store and get a pair of shoes, and that's our gift to you. Now, even though I didn't spend money to get this particular shoe, the feeling that I got in getting a shoe that at that time was like a $700 shoe was amazing. But the more amazing thing about it is that was in like 2007, 2008. I still wear this pair of shoe for certain types of events or certain types of meetings that I go on. And that feeling that I get from remembering what it felt like to have like my first luxury shoe, because at the time Sex and the City was going on, so you're always hearing about Jimmy Choo, Jimmy Choo. That feeling I still have, even though now I have so many more things that are well above that or different types of brands. You'll never forget that feeling that you had. And so if you don't have items like that, whatever those are, whatever the price point is or memory is that's attached to it, I think that it's kind of a loss. We should splurge on ourselves, where it makes sense, and as long as you're not like, making yourself homeless to do so. But absolutely, statement bags, yes.
So when I was editing my book and when it went to copy editing with my publisher, I had said to them, like, I really want to be conscious of privilege wherever it shows up in the book. The person that I was at the beginning of my book, who was struggling and a single mom and no credit and no money and all of that. And the person that I am today are very, very different. And I want to make sure that my book resonates with people who are in the position that I was in the beginning of my story, not just people who are, more financially comfortable like I am now. So that's insanely important to me. And, so my publisher also helped me kind of flag places in the book where it was like, are you sure, you're comfortable with this message? And one of those places was about where you said that you believe like anyone can afford anything if you decide it's really what you want. Like someone may buy $1,000 jacket with little thought, whereas someone else may get the same jacket by squirreling away money for months and months. So it was really awesome because it gave me a chance to pause and think about that message. And for me, I was like, nope, I totally agree with that. I want that to stay in the book because for me, I didn't talk about this in the book, but just fun fact for the podcast here. Like when I was at my brokest point, I got a boob job and like I had no money. Guess what? There was a credit card that, you can get that's for like medical purchases. And that's something that I chose to do. And I stand behind that because you keep talking about how an outfit's not going to work if you don't feel good in your skin. And I will say the best fashion investment that I ever made was starting to work out because before that, I was always looking for the clothes that were going to make me feel like I looked how I wanted to feel. And I never felt that until I felt strong and I felt fit from exercising. Like that's when I just started to be so proud to put on clothes and to really feel like myself and feel empowered. But I had actually had breast implants when I was 21, after I had my son. And after a certain time, like they just, I was having issues with them and it was making me unhappy with my body. So later on, like 7, years later, I was having those issues. I was dead broke. I was going through a lot of crap in my life, like very stressful time. And I made it happen for me to be able to go back and get another breast surgery so that I would be happy with that. And I feel like absolutely where there's a will, there's a way. Like wherever you are, it's all about like doing the best thing for yourself that you can in the moment. Some people are just trying to survive. And of course we can acknowledge that. And a lot of people, I hope that my book does reach some people who are at that point where they are just fighting for their survival and they are working their way back from rock bottom. Like I really hope my book reaches those people and helps them to be able to see what I saw, which was like when I was in that place, I started to just use my journal to envision the way I wanted my life to be. Even if it didn't look like that yet, I started to like dream and set my sights on the things that I wanted to one day have and that I wanted to one day be. And I think it's so important. So I think we don't have to be wealthy to be able to have nice things necessarily. Like if you want to be someone who can have nice things, you give yourself permission to start taking those steps and it changes you. I think it changes you from the inside out.
Yeah. I mean, you look at in fashion, you can buy something outright. Like I was saying before, you could save it up till umpteen times. Sometimes if you have a friend, the friend who actually works at the place will allow you to use their discount. Like there's just so many things that level the playing field. If you even think about going to your favorite restaurant, they have price fixed menus and happy hours. And it's yet another example of being able to be in that environment, have an awesome meal, but you're not maybe paying the standard rate of what it would be. And I'm a big believer that you can do various things. It's just how you're, deciding to prioritize it. Now, it should be within reason. Like I said, you shouldn't be going homeless over it. You shouldn't be doing illicit behavior to get to whatever it is. But to make yourself feel human, because why are you doing all the stuff you're doing if it's not for that? Where for me, it might be a bag or whatever. Maybe for someone else, it's a travel, it's a this, it's a that. Like we all have certain things that make things make sense for us to just exist and continue to go forward. And so I have always believed, especially living in New York City, where it's like you tell someone, oh, I really wish I could have whatever, but it's limited edition. And they're like, yeah, but so-and-so bought 4 and they're selling it on eBay. So if you get there, at this point, you might be able to actually get it. Like there's always a way somehow to get something. I remember there was something I wanted and for some reason, it just sold out so quickly. And then 4 years later, I happened to see it someplace and I was able to finally get it. So there's just something about that, but it's the memory that's attached to it. If you did have to save to get it, you're always going to feel a certain kind of way. If it became a turning point in your life where you felt like, oh my gosh, when I got this, oh, now I feel like this in myself. There's just something about that feeling, because you can't technically pay for that feeling, but that feeling is better than the actual item itself.
Because you gave yourself permission to have it, because you worked for it, because you made it a priority. It's funny what you mentioned about the restaurant example too, because when my editor and I were chatting about that, and I was telling her my story about having had surgery, and she was telling me that when she was dead broke back in the 80s, she and her girlfriend used to go to like the most chic hotel bar in the city, and they would just sit there and like wait for someone to order them drinks because they couldn't afford them. And that was like their Saturday night thing that they would go do.
And I'm sure they were able to get quite a few drinks. It's so easy to look at things and be like, oh, I can't do that. Because the minute you say you can't, you're not even giving yourself the option to figure out the methods by which you could do something, versus saying, you know what, I'm just going to figure out one way or the other. I don't see right now how it'll happen, but if I start putting things aside for if that opportunity happens, then that's what I'm going to do. We have to give ourselves the agency to process how we would do something. We live in a microwave society. Oh, if I can't have it now, then whatever. No. Think about it, figure it out. And if it took you time, whatever that time is, to get something, you're going to not only understand the meaning behind it, but you're not going to be so quick to be like, oh, whatever, who cares? Because you know that it took to get there.
Mm-hmm. And you're giving yourself the space to really own the fact that you want it, like really being okay with what you want and feeling like it actually matters what you want. You deserve to want that.
Absolutely.
Can we, on that note, talk about when people feel guilty about having expensive things, or feel like they should try to wear things that are inexpensive, or that they're being frivolous by investing in more expensive pieces? Like, can we just talk about the psychology that goes along with what you put on your body and what you invest in those items?
Yeah, so it's kind of unrelated, but related. At the time when the markets fell in 2008, I was working at Last as the assistant to the senior VP. And it was crazy. And thankfully, we were a privately held company, so we didn't have to worry about our jobs. But my friends and other friends, at that time when you would buy things from like Gucci and Louis Vuitton and all these places, they didn't let their actual bags that were branded go out. They put everything in paper bags that had no branding or signage at all, because people didn't want to be seen walking around the streets like, oh, I just went to Jimmy Choo and bought like these 5 pairs of shoes. Everybody wanted to kind of keep it low key. And I get it, because once again, in New York City, like that could be a problem. you become a target. But when I have people coming to me talking about where should I put investment into in terms of like my clothing, I'm always like, well, what are things that have more wear and tear? That's how I see it. So for me, my pants need to be a decent investment. I am a person who does a lot of walking. I can wear out a lot of my pants if the seams aren't done correctly. So I can't wear a cheap pair of pants in terms of structure clothing. Any pant that I buy that's cheap, I know it's only going to last like a few wears. And that's okay for some stuff, but I wouldn't wear like some type of a garment that I know is insanely expensive that I'm going to wear through in a horrible way. Certain shoes with me have to be a certain thing. Outerwear, like in terms of winter outerwear, like literally I have a coat that's like a $1,500 coat, but I wear that a lot and I need to be warm because I have really bad circulation. So those are things that are big, to me. And then I have other friends of mine that they're sneakerheads. Like they love buying sneakers that I have never in life seen before, that are out of Tokyo, and they don't even wear them, but that's a whole thing that I can't get around. But the point is that it means something to them. So when it comes to investing, it's about what makes you happy and what gives you joy and why that, matters to you. I think buying for the sake of buying, just from a label perspective, that I don't agree with at all. But if it's something that you feel adds to the quality and the endurance of your wardrobe, then it's definitely something you should do.
Do you think a lot of women have trouble splurging on themselves?
I think even the people who actually do convert on the splurge kind of beat up on themselves a little bit. I think as women, sometimes, we are seen as the nurturers. We're seen as the people that if something happens, we're there to pick up the pieces, whatever. But we're not necessarily always told, okay, well, if you're giving out so much, then your vessel isn't getting filled up. And I think that's really sad because there's a lot of times, even myself, I'm doing a lot of different stuff. And every now and then I'll say, wait, I need get my gel manicure, get my gel pedicure, turn off the phone and give time to myself. And in the back of my head, I'll be like, but there's these 10 things that I needed to do and I feel so bad, or that email came through and I didn't email right away. And so I think that it is important to almost make a list for yourself, which is what I do. I'll make a list of these are 10 or 15 things for myself that I want to do within this week or these 2 weeks or whatever. And you're basically tagging yourself to benefit yourself because it's so easy to get lost in the shuffle, especially if you know that you do have expenditures and different things that are going on. And you're like, but I really need to do this. Okay, you do need to do this. And maybe you can't spend X on this particular thing, but what can you do that forces you to spend money on yourself that you can say, you know what, I enjoyed that experience. And I think that is so important.
I think that is the most amazing advice. I feel like that's like mic drop right there.
Because it's so easy to get away from you. I look at in my week, there's tons of stuff that I'm working on in prep for the magazine, in prep for the podcast, in prep for clients. My sister lives in Jersey. She just had a baby last March. And I always want to make sure that I stay over with her every other week. So I have baby time and whatever. There's always obligations. And then I'll be like, oh, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, oh, but you know what? I don't really need to do that because this is more important. If the vessel isn't taken care of, then the vessel can't give the outreach that it would like to give to everyone else. There's a reason why people get run down and, it's just not good for your mental health. And so it is just as important that when you make that to-do list to take care of the stuff that's outside of yourself, that you tell yourself X amount of this needs to be taken care of. And even though you might be begrudgingly doing it, even though it's for yourself, at the end of the day, you're going to feel better about yourself and you have to, or else once again, why are you doing all of this if you're not putting back into yourself?
Such good advice. Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled. I could definitely sit here for another hour and just start asking you all of my specific fashion questions. I've learned so much in this short time, and I have so many more questions I want to ask. It's just been such a pleasure having you, and I'm just so honored that you were included in the interviews for the book, and I'm so thrilled that you joined us.
Well, I appreciate you having me and chit-chatting with you. And hopefully the next time you're in New York, we will definitely connect. And I think the book sounds amazing. I've loved the clothing line, as you know. And I think empowerment and having these pieces of information that people can go back to, because no matter how amazing rock stars we are in our various lives, we need to have reminders and just take a second and take it in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kimmie.
Thank you.
I'm Andrea Isabel Lucas, and this has been the Own It All podcast. Thank you so much for listening this week. If you liked what you heard, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite listening app. It really helps, and I would be so grateful. I'll be back next Wednesday with a brand new episode. See you then.